All right, we are live, Nico. How are you doing? Good morning to you.
First of all, we're back. We're back. Although ice has just passed by. I'm good. I'm good. I'm back in Munich. Left London behind. Left London behind. You are still in London. How are you, Pierre? How are you? Feeling good?
I woke up here on the around the corner from the Excel this morning, and I say that my body is feeling that the event is over after this couple of days. It's been hectic, and it's like a good reminder of what ice is all about. It's just a massive burst of energy, and yeah, I can't compare it to any other physical exertion that I can think of, but it's one of those things that just takes the soul away from you for a couple of days afterwards. How do you feel?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Pretty much the same, right? I touched down in London already last week, Friday. To just set up meetings and talk things through without people urging to leave as they already have 3, 4, 5 more dinners to actually attend. So that was just crazy. Indeed it was just crazy.
Absolutely. And we have I must when we session today, I must show we have our head of marketing sent this to us here. He's ready for the morning. This is exactly what it's supposed to be. Just wake up, have a coffee, get updated, see what's going on in the industry, and
Yeah.
get on with our day. And good morning to people who are joining in today, of course. And good morning to Kevin Pedersen. He mentioned that he missed ice this year, but obviously you're gonna get the full update here and exactly what has been going on during the last couple of days. So don't you be worried. But before we begin here as well, I want to just say a quick thank you as well to our dear sponsors who are kind enough to keep these things going, which are Playson and Simpler, both of which had good presence at ICE, of course, during the last couple of days. Really great guys to meet as well. But I mean, let's just jump into it, Nico. I mean, if you were to summarize ICE here in your words in the last couple of days, like what would be like your key takeaways?
Um, so first of all, it seemed to be a little bit odd, as the biggest, the companies which used to have the biggest booth, like the Novomatic, the Gauselmann Group, the Micro Gaming Bar, the Playtech area, they haven't been around, right? But other companies came up, took their spaces. Bet Construct did very, very well with how they set up things. All the kind of, booths or the area which has not been taken by a company, they use it as a recreation area, which made it a little bit more, handy and handsome. When you just, you were walking around, your feet already burning, and you could just sit down and just, find yourself back. So this time it was all about, from my perspective, it was all about networking and connecting with people once again, which was just nice, because in the end, ICE is the one event where you literally, the whole industry from all over the world actually comes together. And it was just nice. I had no meeting scheduled up, like no meeting. And it turned out I was drawn from meeting to meeting, as somebody just thought, okay, Nico, you need to speak to XYZ, XYZ. And as like the both of us met, right? I was just going to one booth, just saw you from an eye, and I was just, taking the picture from the both of us. And that's what's all about, right? It was stressed all the time, but it was nice. What about
Yeah, absolutely. I
yourself?
mean, this is one of those eternal questions, I suppose, when you plan a conference like ICE. How do you get the most out of a conference? And this oftentimes sales teams would have targets on their back, like you have to book 20 meetings pre-booked, for example. But there's another school of thought as well, which is the fact that like much of the business happens sporadically when you're walking around at ICE, just meeting people that you didn't expect to meet, and allow yourself to have time for those type of meetings. Like, what is the optimal strategy, do you think, Nico, to get the most business as possible out of a show like ICE?
Yeah, it depends. So I was talking to people actually having a booth, as it wasn't overcrowded with the people who actually just joined ICE, as it's a free to attend show. But the meetings they actually had been worth spent. So that's pretty much the thing. To just spend your time wisely, with people who are actually interested in doing business. And whenever I talk to people on their booth, they were like, "Okay, we have less meetings, but it seems to be way more valuable meetings to them." And in the end, the last 1, 2, 3 weeks after ICE, these are the crucial times where you actually catch up with the meetings you had, and then you just agree or disagree to do business or not to do business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. By the way, I apologize if my video is jumping a little bit in and out here. I'm sitting, like I said, on 4G internet at the moment. Hopefully, it's not too bad. Hopefully, we can see each other. But yes, nonetheless, the eternal discussion is pre-book meetings, versus kind of roaming around. And for me this year, it was like I had almost all my days booked up in meetings, and I think it's a mistake to book too many meetings, because I wasn't able to do as much sporadic business as I was hoping to do. But nonetheless, the meetings that we were able to book were fantastic. And you mentioned like the delegate experience here, Nico, of ICE 2022, and I think this is one of the nice surprises of this year's show is the fact that there are so many more recreational areas this year at ICE. And you mentioned you took a picture here of the really cool kind of forest garden city experience with the mini putt golf here, for example, which I thought was if this would have been a stand, this would have been like the nicest stand of the show, pretty much. They
yes.
did a really
good
together. And all of these extra areas where you can just sit down and take meetings, or just relax for a little bit, or just do some recreational activity, really increase the delegate experience. And that's something that ICE hasn't really been on par with other shows in the past. They haven't not really focused on increasing that level of experience for the delegates, whereas this year they had the opportunity with the empty stand spaces they had to do something with, and it just turned out that they just did it really well here. And just to bring us some comments here as well, Antonio Lavignas commenting here, so it was a great show. He says it felt a little muted this year, but still great fun. And honestly, I don't know about you, Nico, but the third day for me is always the best day of these shows, because it's just much more calm, and I just feel much better and more focused. I walk on the show on the third day feeling a little bit more relaxed, and I guess this is the kind of point in the show all in all. Even day one wasn't really overly busy, but that just makes the experience better when the show is not overcrowded. I mean, there are certain shows out there as well which just tend to be very overcrowded, and the result of that is just that you just tend to not want to go to the show. And that for me was one of the nice surprises as well this year, that it wasn't exactly overcrowded. I don't know what you think.
No, totally agree. And Robert, nice to see you once again, Robert. He has one of the best life hacks, as you just mentioned, right? Schedule all the meetings for Thursday, and then you actually have the time. They have the time to actually discuss business, right? And that's probably one of the life hacks. Robert, once again, thank you for pointing this out. This is pretty much what I did as well.
What other kind of maybe the chat can help us here? Like, what other conference hacks do you guys know? Like, for you, Nico, like, do you have another hack, to say that you think about in order to make your experience, or in order to make better business happen?
Yeah, first of all, one of the main life hacks is don't exit the DLR on Custom House XL. Take the next exit, right? It's less crowded. It's less crowded. The cloakroom isn't crowded as well. You can even use the one from LAC. So that's my kind of ICE and LAC life hack, right? Don't use the first exit, Custom House XL. Use the next one. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's actually, and I fell into like after 8 years of life, I fell into a massive trap this year after day one. I was supposed to book a taxi, and it was just totally impossible. And it took me an hour on Tuesday to get the taxi away from the show. I ended up just walking like half an hour one direction in order to just give myself a chance. Because someone told me, I don't know if this is true or not, but due to Ramadan, which is taking place at the moment, like many of the taxi drivers are finishing at around 7, like when the sun goes down, essentially. And so there's a shortage of taxi drivers after 7 p.m. That's what I was told. I don't know how much truth it is behind that, but it could have been true, because Tuesday after 7 p.m. it was just totally impossible to find a taxi.
It was even impossible literally to find an Uber as well. But there's also a reason why only a few Uber drivers are still around, because due to the pandemic and they being literally offline for nearly 2 years, most of them became Amazon drivers. And that's why it's hard to get an Uber as well, which used to be pretty easy in London back in the days, or the last show. But this is the reason why, as of now, it's quite hard to get an Uber.
Absolutely. Yeah, that could be another logical conclusion here as well. I mean, if we zoom in on the stands specifically, I think on an overall level, I think it's pretty clear that obviously there was a lack of these like very grand, big builds this year. Obviously, many of the household names did not exhibit this year, but the digital part of the industry, they definitely stepped up, so to say. And but I would like to know, Nico, in your opinion, which were your favorite stands during the show this year?
So first of all, I was overwhelmed what Pragmatic Play actually just did with the massive floor, and they just lined up their name right out there. They didn't kind of use this as an exhibition area. They just labeled it as Pragmatic Play. That was a nice one. I kind of like the booth where they had this this starship just pinned to the back of the booth. Bad Construct, kudos to Bad Construct. What they did once again, it's awesome. It was literally awesome, right? It just felt like, as said, I'm running out of words, and for sure, I'm not a dictionary like Martin Licker is, but probably he can describe it way better than I could ever do. But these are my three favorite booths. Besides, there was no booth which I was thinking like, okay, you just crossed the line. It just felt calm, right? There was nothing like where I just felt uncomfortable, making a long story short.
Yeah, no, the industry is certainly maturing in that area. There was nothing over the top this year, and just the show in general, it was very much relaxed. I would say I have a top 3 to share with you, and I agree with you. First of all, for me, the winner is clearly Bet Construct with their kind of Mayan influence stand. I thought that was just absolutely brilliant, really cool design wise, and so on and so forth. Number 2 for me would be Softbet, actually. So Softbet for me is really cool design, like very futuristic, but also it has this like open, very inviting design to it. It's very easy and inviting to enter the stand, which is something I'd like to talk to you about in a little bit as well. And for me, number 3 would be actually a smaller stand build, which was a True Layer. I just thought like a fly is really attracted to really bright quite light. I was just very attracted to the true layer stand, and I thought that would deserve the third place here as well in my little humble rankings. But I guess, going back to SoftBet here, this has an interesting discussion point as well. And for those of you who are hosting stands or are thinking about hosting stands, there is this discussion as well, like, should your stand be an open plan or should it be a more closed kind of stance? And if you guys remember from previous ICE, the opposite to SoftBet's open-minded floor plan is generally Yggdrasil, who generally kind of build a little bit of a house that you need to kind of enter this house to be in the sphere of Yggdrasil. It looks very good, but the downside to that is that it's more difficult to attract visitors who are not really there for a specific meeting, so to say. And so Nick, if I pass the ball over to you, do you get the sense when you walk around at ICE as well that some stands are inviting and you don't mind walking through them or going into them to say hi to someone randomly, and others they feel more intimidating? Is that something you think about?
Nah, not at this ICE, right? This time, pretty much all the booths or all the stands had been pretty much inviting, where you just had open space. Usually, you had a coffee bar where you could just sit down, relax for a while. It was more like a recreation area. And what I really, really, really appreciate is the noise level, because this has been lowered pretty much. Comparing to the last events where you just had all the slots machine, you had all the kind of music going on, all this ba 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 ba. You just literally felt like being inside a casino. Maybe I'm not the typical casino guy. This is more a retail casino guy. So I really, really appreciated this one. You didn't felt that exhausted from your mindset after a day of ICE. You just felt your legs, to be honest, as you have been walking around all the time. What was your experience with the noise level and kind of recreation areas, etc.?
I think is a big reason why people feel exhausted at the end of the day, because the noise is nagging on your head, and I definitely felt it in the end of day one, but that's quite normal. I think in general the noise levels were definitely to a better extent, and again, that's why the day 3 is much more of a comfortable day. You're just much more comfortable. The noise levels are lower, and you can just get a lot more business done. And I think that's an important aspect of the show for sure. The fact that you just feel much more comfortable in especially day 3. And I heard as well, speaking about numbers, what we heard through the grapevines is that Clarion managed to sign up about 23,000 delegates this year, and that can be compared to 30,000 plus, like around 33,000, I believe, the previous edition of ICE. They lost about 10,000 delegates now due to, obviously, first of all, due to the change of dates over Easter. By the way, happy Easter, Nico.
Happy Easter.
Thank you. And secondly, as well, something that was really detrimental to ICE this year was the war in Ukraine that's ongoing at the moment, where Clarion took a decision to not allow any Russian exhibitors at the show. And I believe also, of course, that a lot of Ukrainian stand exhibitors as well, of course, chose not to exhibit at ICE this year. And what I heard is that more than 4,000 square meter of the show was removed due to the war directly, essentially. So there were these two powerful forces that were working against ICE this year, of course, and the fact that most of the land-based side of the industry decided not to exhibit in the show this year. I think that's, if I were to put a tagline on the show this year, I would say that it's the changing of the guard That's how I felt ICE this year, where previously it's the land-based segment that is running the show, whereas this year it was clearly the digital side of the industry that was running ICE this year. And so for me, it really felt like the changing of the guard. Obviously, being from the digital side of the industry, that worked out really, really great to me, of course. What did you feel, Nico?
Yeah, pretty much the same, to be honest. And what we have just seen as well is, we're doing this podcast for almost a year, right? We're talking about M&A activities, company A buying company B. Now we have IGT investing into iSoftBet. And what we could actually see, especially at the LAC area, and if you just pass by the Entain booth and you just specifically eye on, okay, so Entain, which is the umbrella for bwin, Ladbrokes, Coral, etc. This used to be companies which always had a nice booth on their own, and now it's just one booth. So what we can actually realize is, just walking around LAC and ICE, is what's happening to our industry. How M&A activities actually play out. Two, 3 companies being bought by one company, and that just moves 3 booths finally into one booth. I was thrilled to see Flutter. They just had a small booth. As of now, we don't see the US folks on our European exhibition, so no DraftKings at all. Then all the retail casinos, I didn't see BetMGM, I didn't see Las Vegas Sands, etc. And would be nice just to see how things would change if they would identify ICE as an industry leading event like we actually do from a European perspective.
Absolutely, I agree with that as well, Nico. To summarize here, like if you were to put together the observations of ICE this year, I can start here. Like if I were to summarize the show into like 3 bullet points on the key takeaways and observations, for me it would be, number 1, as you just mentioned here, I think the changing of the guard from land-based to digital, that for me is my absolute biggest kind of takeaway from ICE 2022 this year. Number 2 is of course the smiles of the event, the lack of delegates and exhibitors. Although that is not necessarily a negative thing, the level of delegates was certainly a lot higher. The noise was cut out to some extent, and I'm saying this as a compliment, basically, that there was lower attendance and lower exhibition spaces here. So that was a great win for everyone who was there, in my opinion. And the third point here is the lack of Ukrainians and Russians, of course, is something that cannot go unnoticed. The fact that 3,000 to 4,000 square meters of floor space was lost due to the fact that Russians were not allowed to exhibit, and Ukrainians, of course, chose most of the companies we know to not exhibit during the show this year. And so it's all in all, I mean, ICE 2022, absolutely unprecedented show in many respects, and a very strange atmosphere in comparison to previous year. Definitely something, all in all, still the Clarion team should really be proud of what they have managed to accomplish here, because moving such a mass show to new dates and having to deal with organizations pulling out of the exhibition, trying to avoid like a snowball effect where one company pulls out, which means that another 2 will pull out, and which means another 4, and all of a sudden all exhibitors pulls out. Like this must have been extremely stressful for the organizers to try to stop this kind of leak that was happening at one point, where so many exhibitors were pulling out in order to go ahead with the show. So all in all, I think that considering the macro factors, the pandemic that caused the move of the event, and the war that caused disruption of the event. I think that ICE 2022 was the best it could possibly be under those circumstances. So yeah, so those are my three takeaways: the changing of the guard, lower amount of attendance, and the lack of Ukrainian Russians. What would be your top three, Nico?
So I would just add one more thing, as you already mentioned, also the two or three top things which had been on my mind, but overall and on top of everything is how our industry actually matured. Right. So if you just think about when we met at the Sigma event, where you just had the pole dancing stuff, you know, a little bit of sexism. Usually when you walk around at ICE and LSE, you see some body painting, etc. Hasn't happened this year. Right? The recreation areas where you could just relax, where you could just, you know, get your stuff back together. And this is my key takeaway, and something which I really appreciate about our industry as well. It's just the factor of maturing and finally become or get away from this kind of niche, which we are obviously, and for some reason in the past, are always put into. Our industry is stigmatized, and we just see that even the operators urge to actually get away from this stigma, and this was one of the obvious things which I highly appreciate, and that's my key takeaway above all the others. Even if you walk around at LAC, usually, you know, you had this kind of alcohol all over the place, people getting drunk, etc. As of now, it was like, oh, you also serve smoothies. That's nice. Could I just please get an apple smoothie with some banana on it? So that's one of the main key things. And as said, I highly appreciate this one as well.
Who doesn't like an apple smoothie with banana?
Who doesn't?
With you, Nico, I'll take one any day. I also want to say it was really nice to meet Radoslav Gordy over here at the end of day 2, and you're absolutely right. I was a little bit trained at the end by day 2, but nonetheless, really nice to meet you, Radoslav. Really nice to meet everyone else at the show as well. Honestly, it's also one of the top points here as we come out of the pandemic. Nice to just meet people in person again, to be honest. But yes, Nico, and obviously it was nice to bump into you as well at the end of the show as well. We managed at the end to quickly say hi at least. So, we were obviously both busy during the show, but it was nice to say hi to you, Nico. Now,
exactly. And the fun fact is, so I'm never, although, you know, we are doing this show, and also with Carolina for over 14 months already. I literally never met her live and in person. And then me and a friend of mine, we've been on a tube from Westminster to Canning Town, and out of the sun, she literally sat to the opposite of mine. Right? I never met her live and in person. Westminster Tube Station. There was this awesome, beautiful, heartwarming smile woman with a nice head just sitting in front of me. And I was like, I know ya. And she was like, I know you as well. And then it just turned out, okay, that's Carolina. You know, what's the probability of meeting someone for the first time in a tube station, and she's literally just sitting opposite to me? So that just made my day, made my conference. And once again, Carolina, thank you for just being the nice smile and the perfect woman that you are, doing a great job. You are one of the superstars of our industry.
Absolutely, a lot of chatter around live spins and Carolina's beyond during the conference as well. It was kind of like it was kind of like those two live products. I compared it to, it's like the Christmas present of the year. Like last year, everyone talked about Oculus Quest 2 for Christmas, and how that was the present that everyone wanted. And during ICE 2022, it was the excitement around the live products, live spins, and Beyond Play that was kind of stole the show to some extent in the absence of these bigger exhibitors. So I think that's also a bit of a takeaway, that the smaller products were able to get more exposure. And it was really nice to see Katie as well at the show, because I haven't seen Katie in years and years. We used to be good friends in Malta when she lived over here. We used to do pancake Sundays at my place back in Malta. But it was really nice to meet Katie in person as well, doing the show too.
Yeah, thanks again, Katie. It was nice seeing you. My knee recovered. I took some sleep, so all good. I'm in a good shape, as you can see.
Brilliant stuff, Nico. So ICE 2022. I think it's a great summary and a nice way to just wrap up the conference. And we'll be back next year, of course, doing ICE 2023, and it will be interesting to see then if we will see the return of the land-based at that show, because I suppose a lot of the exhibition space have now been kind of booked by the digital part. So that's something to watch out for next year. But Nico, while we are live, while we have each other here, the industry has not been sleeping while we have been in this conference, and it's been a little bit hard to follow the news this week, I must say, because we've been busy, of course, being at the floor space of ICE. But nonetheless, there have been a couple of updates that are very interesting and definitely worth to mention in this session here. So, Nico, why don't you just wrap up a little bit and we zoom in on just a couple of points of the most important topics of the industry as you've seen it this week.
Yeah, so one of the main things, which has been, first of all, it's still reporting season, especially from 2021. Then the Super Group, they just reported a revenue of 1.32 billion for 2021. Betway, they see a 75% increase in monthly average customers. So we don't even just realize, a maturing industry. Also, the numbers we are facing just represent that we are talking about a reliable and one-of-a-kind industry as well. So, as said, we just see big numbers flying, and then we see exactly. So this is the reported or the reports where it actually comes from. But Pierre, don't want to steal your show. So as you already put down this nice graphics, do you want to zoom in on this one as well a little bit?
Yeah, let's zoom in on this, guys, because this is really interesting. I'm going to show, let's see if we can get the right graph up here. Okay, this is really interesting. Okay, so what Nico mentioned here, the Super Group went through a reverse acquisition through a SPAC, and they are listed on the New York Stock Exchange, which means that for the first time, the Super Group, with obviously Betway is the main brand, are now reporting their numbers publicly and opening their books. And so for the first time, we can see the geographical breakdown, the revenues from Super Group, and other really interesting details. And something that emerged here is very, very interesting, which is the second smallest demographic in this nice donut chart, Nico.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
It is Europe, yes. Yeah. And for a traditional European and British massive group, that Europe is such a small piece of the donut here is very surprising, right? So they published that most of the revenue, the largest chunk of revenue, is from North America. Also very interesting, because obviously the Super Group with Betway is its front brand has not really had a presence in the United States. But what this alludes to is the fact that they have a massive market share in Canada, which they have been operated on a grey level. Now they are seeking the license in Ontario, but they have publicly communicated that they will still operate on a grey level in the rest of Canada. Right, so 45% of the group's revenue comes from North America, which presumably is Canada. Okay, and we should remember that, as you mentioned here, Nico, 1.32 billion euro revenue in 2021, which translates to 289 million euro in adjusted EBITDA. So they published an EBITDA margin of around 20%, which is good for an operator. Okay, and a big chunk of that is from the Canadian market. Now, in Ontario, they will be now, of course, slapped with a 20% tax. And so you would imagine that at least in a short term, this will negatively affect the revenue in the North American segment here. That 20% of the revenue is immediately going to go to the province of Ontario. Now, on top of that, you have, of course, the extremely competitive landscape that now Ontario is becoming, where the likes of DraftKings and FanDuel will pour marketing dollars in order to acquire market share in the province of Ontario. So I would be very curious to see if we will see a drop in the percentage share of the revenue split in the North American market in future quarters, and certainly we'll see a lower actually profit margins coming from the North American market as we move forward. Now, another really interesting takeaway here is the Africa and Middle East segment, which is 50% bigger in terms of revenue than the European segment. How surprising is that? Like, how interesting is that Betway and Super Group have seemingly managed to solve the riddle that is Africa and the Middle East, where others have failed. We saw, for example, that Betsson was hoping to make some markets in Africa, some of the key markets, but they have not been successful at all in establishing themselves. Whereas here, for example, we can see that Super Group have been very good at generating revenue from the African and Middle Eastern markets, of course. And so I thought that was really interesting, the geographical split that Super Group have published. We can assume as well that much of these revenue come from gray markets, and this is in contrast to Flutter, for example, who are aiming to reach 100% regulated revenue over some space of time here as well. So that's really interesting. Another graph to show here is the split between the verticals. We can see that online casino is dominating the verticals when it comes to revenue. Not surprising, really. And finally, as well, the revenue here year on year. We can see that if we compare to 2020, Super Group has had a great 2021. They have been able to increase the adjusted EBITDA by 60% during the year 2021, which is a very difficult year comparably to 2020, which was, a great year for the industry. But they have been able to do very well in the year 2021. Now, there are some very tough comparable quarters ahead of them, and I would be interested to see the quarter-on-quarter revenue in the next report which will be published. So that definitely is something to look out for. But really interesting that we have Super Group now entering the mix of really interesting companies to follow on the public markets, which means that we can now see the numbers. They're opening their books and so on and so forth. So that was really interesting to see. And to the point here of Super Group, I see that Katie pointed out here the fact that a lot of the discussions in ICE was on the fact that how Europe is dead as a market. Let's say a lot of headwinds in Europe at the moment, which brings tighter regulation. Germany, very difficult markets. There's the upcoming report from the Gambling Commission in the UK, which is expected to be launched in May, where we are expected to see a lot tighter regulation as well, which makes the UK market more difficult to navigate. And not much positivity come out of Europe. And we can see here that Super Group, again, have been able to diversify the revenue streams away from Europe, where Europe as a continent is, again, the second smallest continent here in the revenue split, which should be should mean that they have been successful in setting themselves up for success in the future, as opposed to Kindred, for example, which has been battered on the public markets because the revenue split is just really not ideal for how the industry is shaping up regulatory-wise, where obviously they lost 35% of the EBITDA overnight when the Netherlands shut down the market, and it's going to take time to regain part of that market share. At the same time, Germany, headwinds there, UK, and Kindred actually issued a profit warning here the other week, which caused to disrupt the share price here again, and they are trading at a very, very low multiple at the moment. So those are just some of the insights from my end on the very interesting first public report of Supergroup.
Yeah, and just zooming in into Kindred as well, because they published their Q1 numbers. And as of now, Q1 from 2022 compared to 2021 is also 30% lower. So they did not recover from the withdrawing from the Dutch or from the Dutch market as well. And this just underlines that they, although they already withdrew from the market of the Netherlands in October, so Q3 2021, and this specifically highlights what you've just mentioned, that it's all about the portfolio and how you diversify your markets. If you just rely on one market and all of a sudden you need to withdraw from that specific market, things might get very, very tricky. And just an update on the KSA. So this is the authority in the Netherlands. As of now, they are still processing 30 licenses. So 30 license applications to enter the market of the Netherlands. Just an update on this one as well.
Yeah. Interesting stuff, Nico. And also talking about Netherlands, something regulatory-wise that a lot of the discussions I heard around ICE was the fact that the Curaçao licenses now is going to be a lot tougher when it comes to the transparency, as obviously Curaçao is I don't know what the exact definition is, a province of the Netherlands. It's Netherlands have very close relations with Curaçao, former province, former something along those lines. Sorry if I'm butchering the geopolitics here, but the Netherlands have influence over Curaçao. And during the pandemic, Curaçao was in desperate need of funds in order to stay afloat, essentially. And this was provided by the Netherlands against a couple of funds, essentially, from the Netherlands. And one of them was relating to the Curaçao gaming license, which is now going to be a lot more scrutinized by the KSA than it has been in the past, right? So Curaçao has kind of been a gambling paradise, so to say, for more questionable operators, let's say. But the expectation is now that that license is going to be a lot more scrutinized than it has been in the past. And so operators who are seeking that license need to be very well aware of what they have ahead of them here when the KSA are able to kind of scrutinize the license more as well. That's also something that was discussed a lot during the conference as well, I heard too. What else have we had here? Should we zoom in on one more topic today? Nico, what do you say?
Now it's your take. Your take, because I would just give one more headline. We see a dynamic duo being finally back together. But that, as said, that's just on a side note. With the former COO of Entain, Sandeep Tiku, actually joining DAZN, his former CEO Shay Segev. So we just see and realize that DAZN, even with Ian Turnbull joining the team, I'm pretty sure they will enter the sports betting vertical in quite a short time. So they are just lining up their team, and for sure we will just see this dynamic duo taking over a quite portion of my beloved sports betting market as well.
Yeah, interesting, Nico. I mean, we followed the Sohan way to see kind of the product development on that front, relating to how they will implement sports betting perhaps and the gambling elements into the product. Katie mentioned as well that do we have any update on the murder case in Curacao? And to be honest with you, we've been a little bit sheltered from the rest of the world during the last couple of days. So personally, I haven't. This is the first time I hear about this murder case. To be honest, I don't know if you know, Nico, anything more about that. But if not, then perhaps you can elaborate a little bit in the chat to find out more about as well. But in the meantime, as well, something else, just staying with interesting discussion that came from ICE. The Andrew Rhodes, who is the head of the UK Gambling Commission, speech during the day zero of ICE, you could say, during the World Regulatory Briefing that was held on Monday. And he talked about how he's worrying about balance between gambling and day trading. So he talks about services like Robinhood, for example, or trading NFTs, and these kind of like trendy topics where, you know, instead of using the terms gambling, I have used the word trading instead, where many of the retail day traders, the stock market that has been this pandemic, and services such as Robinhood, it's worrying that it is another word for gambling, but it's dressed up in such a way where you feel like you are an investor, which kind of has a better connotation to it. So, you know, if I start day trading and I tell my friends that I'm a day trader, they aren't necessarily going to question my actions, because trading is associated with making money. But the problem is, of course, that there isn't really much of a be had in day trading unless you are working as an analysis for Bridgewater or some hedge fund or whatever, where you are an absolute world expert in the macro and economic factors. And so what ends up happening is these day traders end up, if they're not careful, to lose, you know, everything that they have. And it's very similar to how a harmful gambler can potentially lose everything that they own. But we obviously have a lot more fail-safes within the industry and safeguards in order to prevent this from happening. There's a lot of education around this topic, and the operators are responsible enough to try to avoid the potential harmful gamblers from losing what they have. Whereas on the day trading side, there is no fail-safes whatsoever. There's no regulation how much you can day trade and how much you can invest into the stock markets. And it's very difficult to regulate as well, because who is the government to say how much I can invest on the public markets? And it's very difficult topic to navigate. But the same elements of a gambling addiction is being shown on the trading markets. And Andrew Rhodes on the Gambling Commission was very clear to point this out, that he was worried about this trend that is emerging at the moment. And he basically says that trading is gambling, more or less. It's just a different word, so to say. So I thought that was something interesting that came out from ICE as well. And to solidify the point in a final note as well, it was Todd Howalter, the Chief Product Officer of Evolution, who said that the biggest gambling company in the world is called Coinbase. It's not Evolution, it's called Coinbase. And so he solidified the point as well that day trading is very, very close to gambling. So it's another topic that is just very difficult to navigate, where the gambling industry is tightly regulated, but at the same time, the day trading is not regulated whatsoever. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, indeed it is. Indeed it is. Although, if you want to become, or if you used to, or if you were aiming to become a day trader, right? And asking your bank to, I want to become a day trader. You needed to undergo some kind of workshop. As of now, you just sign up with the Robinhood, as already mentioned, but it always seems so sophisticated, with the candlestick trading. It seems like only the guys and girls who actually are into that market and have an idea how it actually works are able to make money out of it. In the end, and cutting a long story short, trading on a daily basis, not even on a daily basis, on a second by second basis, there are no underlying factors, to be honest, right? It is gaming, it is gambling, right? Because the purpose of a company doesn't change on a second by second basis. So this is just where the kind of real world of a company just differs from the traded stocks on or the stocks being traded on a stock exchange. And I totally understand the point which you just mentioned, and I'm pretty sure this is a market which urgently needs to be regulated as well.
Yeah, it's a glorified gambling, let's say.
Exactly.
Yeah, glorified gambling. And if there's ever a time for the gambling industry to educate the rest of the world, it is perhaps in this very topic, because we understand the importance of regulation and protecting our customers. And perhaps that is something that we can help the trading world with in order to bring these issues to light, which is potentially not as much in the limelight in media as the gambling problem is today. So something to consider for our little industry. Maybe we can do this in the world for sure. All right, Nico, what do you say? Shall we start wrapping this up? It's there's another. Yes, absolutely. Take it over here.
One thing, because as you mentioned, I wasn't aware of any murder case in Curacao. Katie just highlighted. Okay, we talked about a thing in our breakfast chat, if I'm not mistaken. We talked about an attempted murder of the Israeli businessman Teddy Sagi. This is the only thing, if I'm not mistaken, where we just touched down on a topic which might be related to attempted murder or murder. But maybe I'm totally wrong. But this was in Cyprus, and it was Teddy Sagi. Do you recall anything else which we touched on the Clubhouse session, on the weekly session with murdered or attempted murder?
Maybe it's the early onset Alzheimer's that kicking in here, Nico, but no, I can't exactly recall. Oh yes, Katie confirmed it. Okay, this was Teddy Sagi, the founder, Playtech essentially. But it was an attempted murder. Unfortunately, Teddy Sagi is still alive and kicking here. So okay, good. We don't have Alzheimer's, Nico. As far as we're aware, that's good to know. Katie tested us here, but we passed the test, I think. Nico, as a final point here today, at least from my end, it's news that broke on Monday morning is the fact that IGT has acquired iSoftBet in a quite substantial acquisition at 160 million euro. And
all cash.
Bingo, bango, bongo. Good luck to the owners of iSoftBet on their yacht, and they're offering themselves into the sunset here with no earnout, just straight cash. And interestingly, iSoftBet published an EBITDA result of 2021 of 8 million euro. So that means that this acquisition represents a 20x multiple. That is a significant EBITDA multiple to pay for a company that generates 8 million euro. And so 160 million in order to acquire. Do you have any more insights on this front, Nico?
Not insights on the deal itself, but just an insight on the booth, because iSoftBet, in the end, they didn't want to exhibit on ice, but IGT kindly asked them actually take the booth and to be on ice on the show as well. So you see that a deal of this size doesn't come out of nowhere, especially as a booth like this needs preparation. So as said, they wouldn't have been on ice if IGT wouldn't have told them to do so.
That's absolutely true, Nico. All right, I think we've had an absolutely brilliant little comeback session here for ICE 2022. Summarize everything, because you know there's so many things happening, and it's just total chaos. And sometimes it's just nice to sit down and just figure out
have a coffee.
What happened in a couple of days, like what actually happened in these couple of days. And I feel at least now that we've come back a little bit to real life here during these hours. And it was great, like always, Nico, to sit down and to summarize and to talk about the latest movements of the industry. We were 10 people at ICE this year from iGaming Next, and this was the first time that we actually brought a substantial team to the show. And for us, again, it was just great to see everyone in person. Great to gather the team. We brought some of our staff who've been at the show before for them to experience ICE and to see, all this craziness and the hecticness that a big show can bring. It was great to see you, Nico. It was great to see Katie. Great to see everyone else. And just looking forward now, of course, we have our show, iGaming Next New York, 12th and 13th of May. That's the big one for us. But then, of course, a lot of shows ahead of us as well. SBC North America we have ahead of us. We have IGB Live, of course, ahead of us, and many other shows in connection to that as well. 2 shows in Ontario as well. And so, Nico, I hope that I'll be able to see you at some of the show. But certainly
you will.
See
you will in America, for sure. In New York. Yeah, New York. So all good. And once again, thanks also to Katie. It was nice for the first time meeting you live and in person. Same happened to me with Rory. Although literally you can't miss Rory because he's quite a big man. Out of a sudden, he was just standing next to me. Right. It's an awesome. It was just awesome. Right. Nice. Looking forward to meet and greet people. Especially Todd Householder during the iGaming Next event in New York as well. Just looking forward to this one, Todd.
Absolutely. Nico, take care of yourself. What do you say? Shall we go down to the beach and we have a smoothie with banana and strawberries?
We will. Safe travels to each and everybody of you who is still in London. So come back safe to your home bed, and happy Easter. Happy Easter holidays to each and every one of you, and looking forward to the next meet and greet live and in person to each and everybody.
Take care of yourselves. See you next week. Over and out. Have a good weekend.
Bye.